So we're going to talk again today about simplified cost options in INTERREG. Before we dive in and focus on simplified cost options, I will also use the opportunity to zoom out a little bit and talk about harmonization of checklists, which is something that Paul from Ireland also mentioned yesterday already, and very happy that it's not the usual suspects talking, but that we have colleagues from audit authorities providing some input for today's session. The rules for today are very similar to what we had yesterday. We're very interested in your feedback and your questions, so please use the chat, raise your hands in case you have questions. So this is what we're going to look like. I'm going to do a very brief introduction, and then Elina from the Audit Authority in Latvia will talk a little bit about working on an INTERREG specific SCO checklist. And then we will also have some first-hand experience by the Audit Authority of the Baltic Sea region program, having just carried out an ex-ante assessment or a check on a program-specific simplified cost options for the next programming period. And then we'll do a round of question and answers or commenting as you like.
Katja, sorry to interrupt you, but yes. I read in the chat box that some people cannot see the presentation.
I'm so sorry again for that.
Switch and I will change the slides.
Okay, so I will stop sharing, and I really apologize for that. It's first time that this has actually happened. So I'll stop sharing, and Przemek, yeah, if you don't mind, because it seems to be that yours is going fine. Okay, so Martin can see we're good. So some of you might remember that last year we asked you if you thought having an harmonization exercise for audit checklists would be something you would find useful for your work when auditing INTERREG programs. And there was quite a positive feedback. And so we started that process that I will describe a bit more in detail, because we have some work done during spring this year. But just as a reminder, and also for the new colleagues who went there last year, why are we having yet another attempt on harmonization? It comes a bit from the fact that the majority of audit checklists, if they are not one-on-one taken over from the Commission checklists, which are also available to audit authorities, they are mostly based on national checklists, which have been designed for EU funds. And they are unfortunately very often not, let's say, 100% suitable for the INTERREG special features. Also, one thing that we have noted over the years, and that you might also have heard from your managing authorities, is that those national checklists, they do create to some extent a bit of a disequal treatment between the auditees. We're talking about the same program. We're talking, let's just talk about audit of operations. So same program, same project, same objective for audits, but different checklists with different focuses. Przemek, next slide, please. So based on the positive feedback by both auditors and programs, we have set up working groups on this. To be specific, there are several. consisting of audit authorities, but also a group of auditor members, managing authorities or joint secretariats, and the Commission has kindly agreed to make resources available to accompany the process also from their side and provide input. We have decided very early on, and that was also when we introduced this, that any outcome of this should be based on the Commission checklists, because then we can be certain that it is covering what is in the regulation, but it should also take into consideration good practices and good experiences from national checklists. Next. So where are we working with this? We have identified several areas, because it would be difficult to have one large group working on everything at the same time, and also time is limited for everybody, so trying to break this down a little bit, and you can see the areas equal checklists and a working group. So we have, of course, a checklist for system audit that we want to look at. We had so far 2 meetings with the group and reached agreements on principles, and more detailed work will come over summer once we have the regulations in place with the relevant set of key requirements. And in general, the idea is to structure the system audit checklist along key requirements as indicated in the regulation. Then, of course, there's going to be a checklist for audit of operations. We have identified public procurement and state aid as another area, and then which will go in one group, and then there is one group for simplified cost options and data reliability. You can see that there will also be one for financial instruments, and we put it in brackets simply because as it stands now, we don't expect or we haven't heard any INTERREG program seriously looking into the possibility of taking up financial instruments. So a checklist should be there for completeness reason, but it is unlikely that it will play any major role in INTERREG in the future. This is also why at this moment it will be INTERREG basically taking care of this checklist and not bothering managing authorities and auditors with this. And then there's also an attempt in the end to have a harmonized approach with regard to audit reports. It seems to be a minor thing, but it can be very helpful to have this harmonized, because it also helps a little bit about processes and procedures. And I'm a big fan of automatization. And I think in particular for the audit reports, a lot of data, if inputted in the monitoring system and properly documented in different checklists, can be automatically generated, which also reduces the workload. So this is basically the big picture. And just to let you know, because we have been doing some work on the simplified cost options checklist already. Cemik, if you could go to the next slide, just for my orientation principles, and have implemented for the SCO checklist, but also in general, working along core principles for coming up with a harmonized audit checklists, which means compliance with legal requirements, covering the minimum needs. However, hopefully the minimum needs would also be the maximum needs. So the idea is also really to only have the possibility to add on to the checklists where it is absolutely needed, where programs or national rules are so special that they have to be incorporated when using the checklists. There has also been a discussion to say we want to move towards effective and efficient systems. So really having a look at what is out there already now in terms of gold plating, also taking into consideration when carrying the audits, in particular the system audits, where do managing authorities or other intermediate bodies or within the accounting function, where are still things in place which are actually not required and only increase the administrative burden on the beneficiary side. There's also in the new regulation clear mentioning of being a bit lighter, if I may say so, for systems which are simply continued. And then another core principle that we're talking about is also transparency and communication aspects, and that concerns language. Very often things are just simply not understandable because we have the tendency to make things extremely complicated just because we can, but also looking at ways how we can better inform managing authorities, but also beneficiaries on what is going to happen during audits. And there's already a lot of good practices out there, including very good documentation. That we will base that work on. I think, Przemek, next one should be the timeline. Exactly. So the timeline is a little bit according to the needs. So we're trying to do a bit of a retro planning. When will something be needed for the first time? And again, our call to you, in case you are sure that your MAs are planning to have projects up and running and paid for the accounting year 21-22, please let us know, because that then might have an impact. As said, we're with the simplified cost options, we're hopefully done. And with regard to the system audit, we hope to get some major work done over summer, hoping that the publication of the regulations will really happen towards the end of June. Next slide, Przemek. Yeah, in case you're new, but you would like to join, we're in the very early stages. So if you're interested, let us know. There's always room for more brains. So don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. So that's it from my side. Przemek, I think you can also stop sharing because I would like to, well, okay, traditional break for, are there any questions? No, very good. They might come later, but then I'm very happy that Elina has to agree to talk a little bit about the work we've done for the INTERREG SCO checklist, and don't expect revolutions. It's just expectation management here. Elina, who has agreed to do this presentation as being part of the working group on it. Elina, I understood you are going to share your screen and you're going to, let's see how many people can see the presentation, but I have the feeling it's me.
Okay. Okay, hello. So I will start sharing the screen and let's see if everyone could see it. So.
Myself, Elina, I can see it.
Okay, so.
Me too, it's in presentation mode.
Okay, great. So today I'm going to present the changes made specifically for the INTERREG programs in the checklist for the review of the simplified cost options. So as Katja already mentioned, the changes have been developed by a working group of INTERREG audit authorities, group of auditors members, and managing authorities with support of the Commission services. So a lot of persons were reviewing this checklist, and yes, EU funds have a 7 years programming period, and could be compared with long distance running. For long distance running, the most important thing is good control of body. The body should be relaxed but well coordinated. Breathing and movement of legs and arms takes runner at optimum and most efficient level. And also what is very important in order to reach the goal, a runner should keep its head and gaze straight forward. So looking to the ground and feet would not assist you to reach good results. So simplified cost options help to maintain focus on the results that shall be achieved instead of focusing on audit trail. And also it is essential to have well coordinated institutions that share a common understanding on how the simplified cost options can be set up, implemented and monitored. So this applies from the level of simplified cost option methodology developers and implementers to the level of audit authorities and commission. So the working group had 2 remote meetings via Zoom during year 2021. In the first meeting, the working group agreed on general approach to make only absolutely necessary and essential amendments. And on the second meeting, finalization of changes took place and the contested points were clarified. So the structure of simplified cost option checklist remains unchanged. So the first part consists of an assessment of simplified cost option methodology. And the assessment shall be conducted for each developed methodology. It provides guidance for checking individual methods, amounts that have been developed by managing authority. And a second part consists of checks on application of established methodology. So there were introduced following changes in the text of checklist. So within the section 1.2 of the shelf methodologies, reference to technical assistant flat rate was deleted due to the fact that it is not a choice for INTERREG, and Article 27 of ETC regulations should be followed. So within section 1.5, draft budget, language was slightly amended by indicating that 200,000 euro are the total project budget costs and 100,000 euro are the amount of total public contribution under a small project fund. And within section 2.1, lump sums and unit costs wording slightly amended, and for the section 2.4, financial corrections wording simplified. The checklists have been converted from Word to Excel, and the column for references to documents was added. And there were introduced 2 additional new points specific to INTERREG in the checklist. So firstly, in the section 1.13, additional question has been added. Is the assessment of the established simplified cost option positive and complies with the relevant standards? And it is relevant in case of simplified cost options assessed by a group of auditors, members, and not directly by the audit authority. And secondly, in section 1.14, an additional question has been added: how the principles of equal treatment of beneficiaries has been respected. For example, modulated simplified cost options are established, they need to be explained, e.g. by member state, by type of beneficiaries. Is this justified by objective reasons, like different price levels, different involvement in operation, etc.? So yes, in order to finalize the checklist, the adoption of final regulation is needed, and the long distance run or the marathon can start. So good luck to everyone, and thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Elina. I think, yeah, if you want, you can exactly stop sharing. And just for your interest, we're going to share the checklist, but we're also going to send them via the with the supporting documents for your consideration via the chat. And I see, Sophia, you have a question. Thanks for raising hand. Please go.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Elina, for the very interesting presentation on the simplified cost options changes introduced within the EU checklist. It's very important to adapt to the peculiarities of each program. Just a clarification regarding the introduction of a new question in cases the group of auditors members assessment regarding the simplified cost option methodology. In which case a group of auditors member will assess the methodology applied at an operational program level? Usually this is one of the responsibilities of the audit authority. Just some more information on the requirement to adjust the questionnaire on that matter.
Elina, if you want, I can quickly reply to this. This was actually coming from a very practical, from an example we just stumbled across where due to a language barrier simply, the audit authority of the program did not have the possibility to assess the data used on the other side of the border for establishing the simplified cost option. In this case, the program plans a modulated approach and was using the data, one for the territory on one side of the border and for the other, the data of the other side of the border, which was not in an aggregated or accessible level because it was not necessary with the managing authority. And in this case, the program bodies, so in exchange, the group of auditor members, the audit authority and the MA agreed that the auditors from the side with the better language knowledge would do the follow-up on the data for their territory, so to speak.
So this is an option for
Yes.
practical reason.
Exactly. It is really for practicalities where the MA is not in possession of all the data used to set up a simplified cost options. And where therefore to look at the data, the audit authority does not have a format available that they can assess properly. I think I made it more complicated than it actually is by talking. I think you got the point, Sophia, no?
Yes, but in any case, the development of the methodology is under the responsibility of the managing authority. I suppose in all cases, the managing authority should have aggregated data in order to develop a methodology and have a full, let's say, knowledge and possession of the methodology.
Mm.
That's my concern on that aspect. I mean, to have two different, let's say, in the case of a bilateral program, to have two different GOA members to assess in each territory a part of the methodology. I suppose this is a task of one.
No, I think for this we agree. I think what we meant with this question, and please provide us your feedback if this is still clear enough from the checklist, is we're not dividing the overall responsibility, but we wanted to make sure that there is a place for documentation in case the work was simply not carried out alone. And yes, the overall responsibility relies with the managing authority. Maybe also important point, in this case, we were talking about small project funds already established, for which you might have some intermediate bodies also taking care of things. And this is where, yes, data can be provided to the managing authority, needs to be available to the managing authority for anything, but to ensure really also for the audit trail that everything went well. In this case, the language barrier was in a way that people said, we would really like to have them on board. And there was close communication between the different auditors, of course, to ensure that they choose the same approach on assessing the data.
Okay, for facilitating purposes, I understand
exactly.
that. Okay, okay.
It's for giving a practical, just having this situation where this is not possible. It doesn't take away, it doesn't mean that people can also come with different approaches. This, of course, is not meant.
Okay.
Elina, please complete and make more sense. I'm very complicated.
Well, from maybe from some practical point of view, for example, if the program develops, for example, our hourly rate standard, and for example, they are reviewing historical data which program has, then there can be different approaches. And for example, if the MA chooses to analyze some work contracts, for example, in different member states, then probably the audit authority will not be able to understand the language, for example, if the work contract is not in the language where the audit authority is, for example, located. So that's why maybe members of group of auditors would be very great assistants.
Okay, understood. Okay, okay. Thank you.
No, thank you. Any more comments, questions? Okay, we put the, as said we will update the legal references in the checklist once we have the final regulations, because at the moment the numbering is still the old one. If there are no further comments, thanks again, Elina, for your contribution. And I'm very happily handing over to Markus, and I don't know, potentially Sandra from the Audit Authority for the Baltic Sea Region Program, to tell us a little bit about how they did their assessment for a program-specific SCO for the next programming period. Markus, I guess you will share the screen or want to share the screen? Perfect. Okay, so please go. Okay, that was the fastest. That was the fastest presentation ever.
Very fast. Yeah. I'm going back to that. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
And hope you can see the screen.
Yes.
Welcome you all, and wanted to say welcome from Germany. We have rain and sun today in mixture. Too cold for May. It's about, I don't know, 13 degrees. And I hope I can warm you up a little with this very short presentation. We were asked by INTERREG to have a very short presentation, and I tried to focus on the main aspects. Yeah, it's we talk about an assessment, and we seem to be one of the front runners of the simplified cost option for staff costs for the INTERREG Baltic Sea Region program. And to give you an idea what the Baltic Sea Region program is, first, we have 10 participating countries. We had in the last INTERREG 5 period about 280 million euros, and we have the funds together. It's IRDF, it's ENI, it's Russian national money and Norwegian money. So just to give you an impression, the picture shows the area around the Baltic Sea. And first of all, what was the object of our audit? It is one standard hourly rate per country for INTERREG 6. So what the program gave us is the most simplification on hourly rates, as they invented one hourly rate per country, per participating country. So this, in the end, is object of our audit, was object of our audit. And this next slide you can see hopefully now shows the amounts they figured out in the national currency for the program period 21 to 27. And this is the result, giving you the amount, for example, for Finland, it's 36 euros hourly rate, which will stay the same from the start of the new program until the end. And so this was the main chart we put up our audit on. So this next slide shows the path. It's kind of a little vacational picture, and we shall encourage you to do the assessment, and what you need is a path to the assessment. So this is the picture, right? And what you will need when you do the assessment on an SCO, you need an audit design, of course. And we said, okay, what is the output? The output in the end is the same as we always have. We have a report and a checklist. And this is, we changed a little the reports we usually use for our system checks. So this was the format we used, and we used the checklist we had. It's not as perfect as the one my colleague Alina just presented to you. It's the checklist which was dated from the Commission by 8th of December last year. So we used that one and adapted it a little. And the next thing you need is a reception. We received the methodology draft by our program, by MAJS. And so what we did do then is we took, as we had 10 countries, 10 hourly rates, we said how to assess them. We took, as auditors always do, we took a random sample. So we sampled 3 out of the 10 countries. And in the next step, we took a subsample from these 3 countries we had sampled. We took 3 beneficiaries with all their staff within. And so we had 9 beneficiaries from these altogether, from the 3 countries, 3 times 3. And these 3 beneficiaries, we had all the staff from that, and these ones we looked at. So what we had is we have historical data which the Baltic Sea Region Program has per country, because they use a staff cost tool since a long time. And what they did, they brought all the different possibilities you have to calculate the salaries and the staff costs. Is it the percentages, the hourly rates? They brought it all down to an hourly rate based on their staff cost tool on historical data. And then in the next step, what they did is they found out the median. The median means they dropped off the lowest rate and the highest rate, and from the rest they put the median. They found the middle to find the hourly rate, which is exactly in the middle. So, and then they compared it to the Eurostat data as a reality check, just to make sure if the hourly rate they found is not very far away from other statistics as Eurostat. They didn't mix it, just as a reality check. And then in the next step, what we had is the hourly rate we found is somewhere in the middle of the last program. So it has a year, let's say it was 2017. And then you need a very interesting process. Again, you have an indexation, because what we want in the end is 1 hourly rate per country. So you need to index, when it was 2017, you need to index the price to 24 to 2030 in the end, so for the new program. So you have an indexation, and then what you do then is you have then the index rates, and then you calculate the first year until the 7th or the 9th year, whatever it is, an N+3, and divide it so that you have the same amount all the time. It is the idea is to have the same rate from 2024 in real until 2030. So we had traced all that, and coming back, telling you how we did that. I told you we had the sample, and we retraced. Let's say we had 3 countries. It was Sweden, Germany, and Poland was our sample. And then we retraced the staff, several staff, certain people, and looked if their amount is in the calculation. So what it was, the concrete hourly rate from Johan from Sweden, and we could find Johan in the calculation. We retraced him from the beginning, from the staff cost tool until the end. And so this is what we did. And so we came up to an overall conclusion that is positive. It is not as we are used to in the system audits, it's classified 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's just the overall conclusion is positive. We checked if we are in line with the relevant national and EU eligibility rules. We confirmed that there's no risk of double funding of the same expenditure on the other sides. We had a very much reliable source, and we checked if the method used is fair, equitable, and of course verifiable, which is very important. So our recipe for you, what will you need when you start an assessment of the SCO? You will need a very detailed methodology document from your program, which gives you the idea, what have we done, why have we done, what have we calculated, how did we calculate, and give me the columns and the Excel files that you can retrace every figure you will need. So you need reliable and verifiable data. So we had the staff cost tool from the beginning, and so we had this data which we could use, but you can also use national statistics. The main point is that you can verify the statistics and the data, and they must be reliable. The next thing you will need is a timetable together with your MA, so that you make clear when does who what. In the end, in our opinion, it's a capable workload, and it's a close cooperation and communication between AA and MAJS. And this worked very good in our case. And we had several meetings with the staff concerned, several online meetings, of course, in this time. And yeah, so in the end, it's teamwork. It's kind of very good cooperation. And so, yeah, that's what it was. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcus, very much for your for this overview and this experience. Yeah, the floor is to the colleagues, questions, but also if you maybe have experiences you would like to share, how you approach this with your managing authority, what has become a good practice, what is maybe also what is a bad practice, what would you not repeat because you've done it and it didn't work. or where you feel you need to be. We had in the past discussions on whether formal, informal, what is the best way, different approaches to this. But in any case, please ask any questions that you might have, or share your experiences in this area. We had asked you a few questions from the registration as well, and that was a bit of a diverse picture in terms of what is to be expected with regard to SCOs. Many people, many colleagues still don't know what is going to happen. But anyway, there's a question for you, Marcos, in the chat. It comes from Jacek. What checklist did you use? The Commission's checklist?
Yes, exactly. We used the Commission's checklist, and we adopted it a little because it was, as you know, working in the group, not all the questions are made for INTERREG programs. So we had some NAs in there.
yeah, but I guess that's normal, and this is why this option of NA exists.
Exactly.
All right. Any other questions?
Hi, Katja and Marcus. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly, Irina. Please go.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have a question on the contributions in kind you may have across when you are doing your, I suppose, your methodology. So, if so, what did you do about them? When I mean contributions in kind, in the form of provision of works, i.e. staff cost in your case. And if you haven't come across contributions in kind in your exercise, what do you think about that? Would you include that in your SCO calculations, or would you rather stay away from that? Thank you.
Thanks, Irina. Tough one, I think.
Hi, Irina. I'm not sure if I got your question right, but if I did, I think your question is what came into the calculation of the hourly rate by the program, right? Any other contributions? Is that the point?
The point is, I think BSR doesn't allow for in-kind contribution.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we do not have this problem. I know about the problem, of course, because we're working for other programs, but we do not have this kind of problem in the BSR program. Yeah.
Also, it's really a very good question, Irina, because we came across the issue of in-kind also previously in a different context, but also SCOs and staff costs, and we parked the issue a little bit because in INTERREG many programs don't allow in-kind, or if they do, they allow it only as the partner contribution. So on the not on the EU fund part, but on the
Member states.
Exactly, on the national contribution part. I don't know if I saw that Melina is here, but she's a colleague from the Commission, but I'm not sure if she would have any input. I would just leave it to her if she if they came across it, because it could also be something. Let me think if we can get in touch maybe with some of the colleagues from ESF, because I think in ESF in kind is much more. And I see Joanna is switching on her camera, which is usually a good sign.
Thank you, Katja and Marcus.
To confirm that also, as far as I know, in INTERREG, the in-kind is for own contribution. So not in what concerns the basis of the calculation for SCO, which is the total EU fund plus the contribution of the member state, but from the own contribution. And in many programs, it is not allowed at all.
Katja.
Yeah, perfect.
Hi.
Melina, you're also here. Hi.
Yes, I'm always here.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
It's just if the camera is not on, you're never 100% sure. Dear all, in case you don't remember, this is Melina Sumela from the unit Better Implementation. So not the audit, but the guys who try to improve everything. Did you?
Yes, I think we came across this issue, and not long ago, And I think if you have Dutch colleagues here, they could confirm or reject what I remember, because we had an interpretation question on this point exactly. And I think the reply was yes, that it can be part of the calculation for the hourly rate, how you call it? The
hourly rate.
Yes, of the hourly rate, the in-kind contributions. And as I think Dutch programs, not INTERREG programs, but the mainstream, let's say, they do it. They said that they do it. It's a national rule. And they asked for the Commission to confirm, and we replied yes. I need to find it and maybe send it to you, because I'm not sure exactly of the details, but I remember that they asked specifically this point, and I think the reply was positive, that they can include it in the calculation of the hourly rate, this in-kind contribution, I think. But I don't think, I'm not aware of this, I don't know, national, what you said about the national, being part of the national contribution. I don't think the question was that. It was rather whether it can be included.
That can be taken into consideration.
Yes,
I think it's again a specific maybe setup for INTERREG, but I think already this, Melina, if you get a chance to share, we would
of course. I will try to find it, because it was like 2 months ago or 3 months ago, and then I don't remember exactly, but I'm sure that we gave a positive reply to this.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Irina.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. If you can forward something on, I'll appreciate it very much.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Melina, as well, and Katja and Marcus.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, experiences to share? Perfect. I like it. Straight to the point.
Good to hear that I encouraged you all, and that it's not an assessment which is too bad. And we've heard a lot of SCOs and assessment of SCOs, but in the end, I can tell you it's not too much. You can all handle it.
Thanks, Marcus. But be prepared of people coming back to you.
You all may, of course, even bilaterally.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, there is still Alina, which wants to say
Elena,
something.
Please, yes.
So the question would go to Marcus. So you told that there was performed the indexation for the calculated unit cost. So how in future it will be applied? So as I understand, the indexation is like for a 7-year period, and then, for example, when the project will be written, then which unit? How to? It's kind of hard to formulate the question. So the rate is indexed for the 7-year period. But when the project writes the application, what kind of unit cost it should use? Should he use this indexed for 7 years, or
Yes, Elena, thank you for the question. Indexation. This is a very special theme. No, the point is, if the hourly rate is already indexed, that means that when they found out from the historical data, let's say it's 40 euros for Germany, just make it an example, make it easy. They found it's 40 euros in 2017, which was the median in 2017, and then they put the index on top. So that means that they found out that the index for Germany is 2.4% per year. So, and then what they did is they said, okay, it's 40 euros in 2017, so it's 40 euros plus 2.4% in 18. It's then 40 plus 2.4, and then 19, 20, 21 until 2030. And then what they did is they divided the sums from 48 euros, which was in, I don't know, it's just a guess, in 2024, and then it is 57 euros in 2030, and they added them up and divided them by 9, and then you have one hourly rate which starts with the same amount from 2024, the start of the program actually, until 2030. It will stay the same amount. It will stay always 48 euros, which is the amount for Germany. So the ones who are in the beginning, they have a little advantage. they have a little more per hour, and the ones in 2030, they will still have 48 euros per hour. Maybe they're not as lucky as the ones in the beginning. So, but the idea is to have the same hourly rate from the start of the program until the end per country, to make things easy, what it's all about.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
I think you explained it very well, and maybe if I just may add on it, this indexation is indeed something, and the way Baltic Sea region applies is certainly for simplification reasons, to just say, because what we're doing with simplified cost options and the actual amounts that are then deriving from this is we're only having a proxy to reality any longer. So any salary increases due to inflation or new tariff agreements in countries are no longer taken into consideration, because we no longer have a real cost approach to the staff costs. And to take this into consideration, many programs at different things they are implementing via simplified cost options are looking into ways of finding an indexation, finding a proper middle way, still reflecting the reality, but keeping it simple for the beneficiary, and they do it via the indexation of amounts. We know a couple of programs are also planning to have a midway indexation, to basically in 24, 25, looking at things and then taking, very often you have inflation taking into consideration. For other things that might be the consumer price index, because it concerns services, things like this, where
exactly, yeah,
looked at, yeah,
very much exactly, yeah,
yeah.
That's it. I think the program also has a stop point, I don't know, in 2020 something, I don't know, where they check if the index still is a good one, or they have a stop point to change the index and see what's reality is going on. So
yeah.
But the main thing is, to sum it up, to have one hourly rate per country. This is what I think is a good thing. In other programs, we just started to assess now the hourly rates. They have 3 different hourly rates per country. So this is also possible, but the way to simplification is less is more.
Yeah. I think it doesn't get much simpler than that, but not all have the historic data available as Baltic Sea region does in this case.
And it needs, and last point, it needs some courage for the MCs to decide. They all say, we all, as usual, the MCs say, we want it simple, we want it easy, but when it comes to the decision, this is another point. So it needs a lot of courage to decide to make things simple, as there are always the ones below and above the line.
Yeah, and this is where, yeah, where it's important to keep in mind it's a proxy. It doesn't have to be 100%, and it is the nature of simplified cost options to occasionally over and under compensate, but we want results. We want activities to be delivered.